Hi, Mike. Good evening. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Tony.
Okay, so
What? Wait, stop. What?
stop.
Did you hit record?
I have some stuff that starts recording automatically.
Okay, fine. It's all right. Mike just wanted to know. You want to start again? That's fine with me.
Yeah. You want to discuss the Stepinac film too?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I'd
Okay,
like to discuss that.
okay, okay. So, hi, Mike. Good evening.
Hello, Tony. Good to be here.
Thank you for the link. You sent me the link to this Stepinac movie. It's. I looked at it. It was great. It's a great surprise because it was made by a Croatian film director, and Croatian films are not that good usually, especially if they are pretentious. They're talking about these big topics. But this one was really nice to watch, and it was very historically accurate. So
Yeah, I
thank
was
you.
surprised. I mean, it's hard to make a film about two guys sitting and talking for an hour and a half, and I thought they did a good job. The actors were good. I thought that the actor playing Tito was really good. I thought, well, Stepinac is just a different character than Tito. He was a little more reserved and so on and so forth. But this was a serious piece of film. And it dealt with serious issues, and it's in English, so it's accessible to the entire world now, and it's kind of like the introduction of this whole idea to the entire world. So I thought it was good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. It was very accurate and historically and to the point. It's very neutral. Uh, it's good. It was really nice. So I'm already familiar with the topics. I know what already in the subject. I know what was the main problem between them, and what struck me. It's the like this puzzle that the staff Stepinac is saying to Tito. Tito actually got them seriously. If you
Yeah,
know if you know what I mean concretely, uh, so Tito is coming like a big winner, and he has this
yeah.
attitude that he's here to
Just
stay forever. And
yeah.
Stepinac
Just stay,
says to
stay.
him,
Just to state at the beginning here, this interview took place within a month of the end of World War II, where Tito just conquered. He's the new leader,
"Yeah,
and he's riding high, and you can tell by his attitude. It kind of swaggers into the room. He's trying to be polite, but he's pretty much giving Stepinac an offer he can't refuse.
yeah,
It's like the mafia. So eventually, the iron fist starts to become apparent underneath the velvet glove.
yeah. It offers him. He tries to play to his. He tries to exploit this celibacy issue, and then he's threatening. Then he's offering like a deal for the Croatians, uh, because he wants to create this let's say this Croatian national Orthodox kind of operation that will break from Rome. So, but another thing is
This
interesting.
this this is crucial from an American point of view, I think, because the one thing America never had was a Catholic tradition. It was started by groups of people who belonged to state churches, and state churches were, in effect, the invention of the Reformation. So before the Reformation, England was part of the Catholic Church, and it tried to get together. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do to keep all these parts moving together in the same direction. But the crucial problem came when they broke with the Catholic Church. And then you got all these white boys living on an island. And at that point, it becomes ethnocentric. You have a church which is made up of people who all belong to the same ethnic group, speak the same language, and that leads inexorably, I think, to the racism that we had in America, which was the big problem in America. The same thing is true of Germany. I had that discussion with that guy. I don't know whether you saw that. The guy's name's Corey Mahler. a complete. Apparently he's been kicked out of the Lutheran Church. He's so extreme, but he made it clear that there was a direct line from the foundation of the state church in Germany to Hitler's racism. Direct line, and he is a complete devotee, an exponent of Hitler's racial narrative. So I think this is clear, and this is the background to the offer that Tito's making. Okay, yeah. and the reason that Stepinac can't accept it.
Yeah. Well, what's also striking is like history a bit repeating itself. So with this film about Stepinac, you have all this Nazism, fascism. The Second World War just ended, and you have Tito implying, it's you guys, you were not responsible, but kind of you approved, you were sympathetic, but from the European perspective, if you look at from the Croatian standpoint, fascism is basically a reaction to this Weimar degeneracy, but not a Catholic reaction, but the anti-Catholic reaction. Let's say the right. Scientist, nationalist, atheistic reaction.
Right. Then, Tony, we have exactly the same thing happening in America right now.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing here is, look, I started out 15 years ago to disconnect the Jewish question from the race issue. Struggling for 15 years, I finally get a discussion going about the Jewish question on religious lines, talking about the rebellion against Logos, and then what happens? Suddenly, all over Twitter, there are people praising Hitler. The latest being Kanye West. Kanye West is praising Hitler. Nick Fuentes praising Hitler. Yeah. Where did this come from? The Jews are promoting this.
Yeah.
They love it when people promote Hitler. I don't know whether you saw this short tweet. There's a video of all of these Jews. I mean, big Jews. Steven Spielberg, Sacha Baron Cohen, Mike Bloomfield, Simon and Garfunkel, the biggest Jews out there, all wearing T-shirts, giving Kanye West the finger. They love Kanye West. They finally got a guy who believes exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And so this is precisely the fascist reaction now that is taking place in America. It's exactly analogous to the fascist reaction that took place in Germany after the Weimar Republic.
Yeah, and the Kanye West, but your new how to call it, Elon Musk. What's his status actually now in this government? He's some kind of connected, but some kind of advisor. So his tweet is interesting. He's commenting the situation in Germany, and you have Alternative Deutschland. Oh, they're great. They're not Nazis because their head is a lesbian. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. The Nazis in the 30s, they were all like gay. I mean, it was. Do you know how the Nazis do look like? I mean, the leather, the haircut, and by the way, it was like common knowledge that they have this kind of. They had this kind of, well, how to put it, this strange affinities in the 30s. So basically, if you're a political, let's say, if you're a political person, and you are either openly gay lifestyle or you are openly pro-abortion, that means that you're anti-Catholic. It's that simple. So he is promoting basically, let's say, these Nazis or this.
He is. He's promoting what they're doing is Trump got elected. Okay, that was a negative vote. Votes are always negative. That was a repudiation of Biden's minion, the whole left-wing transgender gender ideology, reductio ad absurdum. Everybody hated it. It was repudiated. As soon as Trump gets elected, all of these people rush in and say, no, this is what it really means. it really means, and then you got all these people trying to hijack the mandate that the American people gave to Donald Trump.
No.
That's what's going on right now, and they're trying to turn it into some type of fascist movement. This is exactly what is a fascist movement? It's the rejection of Catholicism. It's what it was in Germany. It's exactly what it was in Germany, and the German people paid the price. As soon as Hitler turned on the Catholic Church, it was bad news. They headed down the wrong road, and they paid the price. And Jews have been rejoicing ever since. The greatest thing that ever happened to the Jewish people was Adolf Hitler, because it enabled the entire construction of what I'm calling now the Third American Republic. I've just got this idea now. There are 3 republics in America. They last 80 years. First republic was 1781 to 1861. It ended with the Civil War. Second republic is 1865 to 1945. That ended with World War II. We are now at the end of the Third Republic. That began in 1945. It's now 80 years later. What was the foundational document of the Third Republic? It was the Holocaust. And this is what enabled the Jews to take over America. And now that period, along with Israel, Israel is the same age. It's coming to 80 years now. We're coming up on 80 years now. They are both going out at the same time. They are both disappearing because nothing in history lasts more than 80 years.
Okay. Yeah, I have another European example. Germany was more national socialist, but Italy is basically the cradle of fascism. And there you can clearly see that the fascists in Italy, it was an let's say movement that were offering an alternative to Catholicism, and the Jews sponsored it there. So in fascist Italy, you don't have any animosity between the fascists and the Jews, because they are the same crew. There are no persecution of Jews in Italy. And then after the Second World War ends, you have in Germany, you have this huge denazification. You have this kind of, let's say, removal of this Nazi cadre. But in Italy, if you remove the fascists, the only people that will remain are the Catholics. So they could not afford themselves the removal of the Italian fascists. So basically, you have 0 fascists in Italy that were convicted or tried or removed from the positions. You have the same people just putting on the other robes because this was the better alternative than to give the country back to the Catholics. That's in Italy's case. So it's interesting.
I think the post-World War II period was, in many ways, the great Catholic era. Certainly Europe. I think the European Union was a conspiracy among Catholics. You had Adenauer in Germany. You had de Gaulle in France. I don't know who you had. You had a lot of people in Italy.
In France, you had Schumann. That sounds German. Right. Yeah, Robert Schumann. He is actually. They started his canonization process. Actually, he is a French, but he's a French from Alsace, so he spoke German. He was a Catholic, and you have De Gasperi in Italy. De Gasperi was way north in Italy, the place the Italians call the Alto Adige, and the Austrians call it Südtirol. So right. It's let's say, shared area, and the guy also spoke fluent German. Yeah. So there you have 3 Germans reconstructing the Holy Roman Empire again. But I think it was a good thing. I mean, I'm all for the original.
No, it was a good thing.
European
it was
idea.
A good thing. Adenauer didn't want unification because the Bundesrepublik after the war was Catholic. It was mostly Catholic. If we brought the East in, it would have diluted the Catholics. That was what was going on then. Now, the United States, at this period of time, as soon as they won the war, the United States won the war, the elites in the United States declared war on the Catholic Church. There was people like Paul Blanchard, who wrote American Freedom and Catholic Power, a very important figure in American history. That book came out in 1947, and it was basically the Protestant-Jewish alliance against the Catholics. And the big issue at the beginning was the Hollywood production code. They wanted to break the code because it was Catholics telling the people of the United States what type of films they could see. And that's when it began. And the church, the Catholic Church, was totally oblivious to this. And the man, I think, was more responsible than anyone else for ignoring this was Ratzinger, Joseph Ratzinger. Time magazine called him the first American Pope. This is a man, I think, who accepted the legitimacy of social engineering in Germany. He basically put the Catholic Church as saying that it was legitimate. They accepted it, and part of that meant accepting the new role that the Jew had in the American empire. This was a new role. All of this was accepted, and I think it was ratified in Vatican II.
Well, that's harsh talking, but okay. Yeah, I do agree. He does seem to have internalized the commands of the enemies. But
if you compare him to Cardinal Frings. Cardinal Frings is the man. He was an old man by the end of the war. He's older. 1959, he met Ratzinger, asked him to go with him to the council. Ratzinger was Frings' peritus at the council. Frings had stood up against, first of all, the Morgenthau Plan, which was going to starve the Germans to death. He said, basically, break into the warehouses and take the food out. Break into the trains and take the coal out you need to heat your apartment. He stood up, was the hero for the German people. He did the same thing with the Marshall Plan. He was adamant in opposition to pornography, which was an integral part of the Marshall Plan, which nobody knows. Okay, and then when Frings goes to Rome with Ratzinger, he's blind, can't read anything. Everything that pretty much came out of his mouth was Ratzinger. And Ratzinger at this point takes the opportunity, seizes the opportunity, and basically kicks Ottaviani out of the council. They throw out Ottaviani's preliminary documents. There's a moment in the council where they set a 3-minute limit. Ottaviani exceeded the 3-minute limit, and they cut off his microphone. John Cardinal Kroll cut off his microphone. He told me that. He told me he did it. And then he said, I shouldn't have done that. He told me that to my face. I shouldn't have done that. Kroll didn't have a clue of what was going on there. He didn't understand what was going on there. It was his idea to limit people to 3 minutes. And so he cut Ottaviani off, and everyone cheered. The bishops cheered.
Great.
They cheered when Ottaviani was humiliated. And once I think Ratzinger saw that, he moved to throw out all of the preliminary documents that Ottaviani had written. The purpose of the council was to say that there are two threats to the church now. One is the Soviet Union. Everybody knew that. The other one's America.
Yeah,
and America is Hollywood and psychoanalysis. What's the common denominator? It's Jews. American Jews are a threat to the continuation of Catholic culture in Italy. And you want the movie version of that? It's called La Dolce Vita. That film came out at the same time Ottaviani was writing the preliminary documents.
Yeah, it reminds me of Stepinac. His famous quote that was now used as a proof against him, and at this, let's say, mixed Serb-Croatian commission by the Vatican. So the idea was to find something really bad, something really incriminating that Stepinac said. And so they found a quote and said, where he says, behind all pornography and abortions in Zagreb, there are Serbs and Jews. so, so yeah, it's you can see you can see like the old school theologian. By the way, it comes out in this movie too. You know, you have Tito like saying, "No, it's so you, you boomers. It's a new world. We'll unite with the Serbs." And like Stepinac on the other side, he's aware that the other side basically a theological and let's say religious enemy that's trying to that's fighting the church actually, because all these how to put it, all these schismatic groups really hate the church, and Tito was like disregarding all of this. You know, it's like this 1,000-year-old conflict that is just no, we should just waved away and say no, we'll do the brotherhood and unity, and what can go wrong?
Yeah, that came out in the movie. The ultimate, the arrogance and stupidity of a communist who feels suddenly now that there is a new dawn simply because he can sit in that Jew's chair and drink whiskey and smoke cigarettes, that he's on top of the world and he can change the world simply by these communist slogans that they're going to change the world. He comes across as just ultimately a stupid, self-enamored egomaniac.
Yeah.
Comes across by the end, certainly, where he starts to lose his temper.
Yeah, but what actually what got me thinking was he was always comparing him to Pavelic. So he's basically the ultra-nationalist Ustasha guy that was ruling 4 years before him, and that he was also accepted there. And he's always like the Stepinac is always trying to do some parallel between Tito and him. And Tito says, I can bet that I will last longer than these 4 years. And then Stepinac is keeping he's always coming back that he can also have the same fate like Pavelic. But actually, in history, it was almost prophetic, because Tito was a Stalinist. Yugoslavia was basically in that time a satellite country. And in 1948, Stalin decided to remove Tito away from power. So he'll basically find another guy. Tito is a loose cannon. He cannot be easily controlled. He has his own ideas. He has this huge ego, and he's too powerful. He's not listening. I mean, that he's not that obedient to Stalin. And so Stalin just comes up with some stupid thing like some economic problem or something. And you have in 1948, so it's basically just, 3 years after this conversation happened,
right.
You have Mr. Bakunin, that's from the Politburo in Russia, came to Czechoslovakia to the Victory Day parade. He takes the microphone, like points his finger south to Yugoslavia, and says, "But there, comrades, there is this Tito guy and his guy, Pavel Rankovic. They are two like fascist thugs, and we'll deal with them soon." so basically, what is Stalin doing? He's preparing like an intervention in Yugoslavia. And I think that this conversation Tito had with Stepinac, and like this warning that Stepinac communicated to him, made Tito to cut the deal with Americans and pull off this Tito-Stalin split that he survived, and that Stalin did not survive.
Do you know if the movie was based on the actual transcript of the interview?
Yeah, I've read the actual transcript. It is published on at least 3 or 4 places, and it's maybe 80% accurate. So it's very accurate, actually.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they left out some things. They like brought in some, but it was a really long conversation, and it's a little masterpiece. How to be that accurate and to be that interesting. Yeah.
What about the whole story of Stepinac's girlfriend, the woman he almost married? That got emphasized a lot in the movie?
Yeah, I don't know how much impact this had to this late to Stepinac's life later, but yeah, it's if you read the original documents, it's not that emphasized. It's not that emphasized. It's more something, some youth thing that while he's because his father actually had some property. There was some. He was actually trained to continue his operation. That was like his family was hoping that he will go on with this family business. So it was kind of, this girlfriend was a kind of his way to please the parents and to prepare to that kind of path, you know. It's not that dramatic in the original writings and in the original texts. So he kind of abandons this worldly, you know, businessman hair, you know, the Stepinac's, the businessman life, and he chooses the other life. So it's more, I don't think that this, I mean, that at least the feeling I got from reading the stuff about Stepinac, it's not this emphasized like in the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was there to inject some romantic interest into the film, because a lot of the flashbacks involved him with his flowers at the grave and all that other type of stuff. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the stuff that you read, this girlfriend is in the context where he's still having thoughts of choosing this secular businessman life, like to continue the family operation or to go in a separate direction, you know, to celibacy and
why is this film banned in Croatia and Serbia?
I don't know. It's not banned. It's not available for free watching. I think I could buy it, but
is there a Croatian version that they're selling? Is there a version in Serbo-Croatian?
It was in the movies. It was featured in the cinemas, and the guy that made it, it's Croatian. They're father and son filmmakers.
When did that come out?
I think the movie is made in 2002, and this is the first time I looked at it.
Okay, so it probably didn't have a big following when it came out?
Yeah, did not.
Ah. Was the original done in English?
Yeah, it's also the actors are American, I think. They're not Croatian actors.
Okay.
The guy said that in Croatia the actors not that good. so he was not able to find two actors that will incorporate Stepinac and Josip Broz Tito. So
what's happening in 2002? Is it they're just getting over the war?
It's Corona crisis in 2022.
Oh, 22. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I thought you said 2002.
No, sorry. It's 2.5 years ago.
Corona killed it at the box office?
I don't know what actually happened because it had not the publicity, but at least I was not aware of some publicity about the film. Also, the critics. It was not probably all this Corona shuffle dampened.
Bad time to bring out a movie.
Yeah.
Were there any reviews?
I found one or two reviews. Actually, they are complimenting it because the director, actually, the father of the director is also stated in the cinemas, and you know, this older guy, Sedlar, when he's doing these pretentious films, it's like watching an old guy reading a book, you know. It's very static and non-interesting. But this one is really good. I mean, it's really
it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. When I met with Bishop Peric, I said there should be some type of coming together of the Serbs and the Croats to write a common history of what happened during World War II. And he said it's impossible because Tito and his thugs showed up at the Chancery office in Mostar and took all the documents. They took all of their files. And so he said there's no basis for writing a history anymore. They eradicated the history of World War II.
Well, there is another problem. One famous Croatian professor of Jewish persuasion, when he was explaining what's anti-fascism and what's this brotherhood and equality among nations, it is basically a pact between two opposites against their mortal enemy. The mortal enemy, I presuming, being the church. I don't know. So,
who are the two opposites? Jews and Serbs?
Capitalism. You can understand that in a way like capitalism and Bolshevism, or you can understand it like the East and the West, like the Protestants and the Orthodox. So you can pick. Because, okay, let's face it, traditionally, this ethnic conflict, if it's really this kind of a triple melting pot version, you do have Catholics inside and the Orthodox, and it's basically a masquerading ethnic conflict, religious war masquerading as an ethnic conflict. So it's, coming together in a religious war. You can talk openly about kind of having some kind of detente, but I don't really think, how could you, I don't know. What are the options here,
Well, it's a way of opening a discussion.
Yeah.
It seems to me this is a film that could open the discussion about what really happened at that time.
Yeah, I send the link to Alexander. Okay, we can discuss it, so we can see what he says. I remember asking Alexander, but if you ask like 80% of Serb intellectuals, if you ask them the question, the Croatians are not all Catholics. Let's say it's not overlapping, but we can put it that way. That most of Croatians are Catholics. If you ask, like, let's say a Serb, is the fact that most Croatians are Catholic, is that causing problems in this Croatian-Serb relations? And the answer is yes. If the Croatians were not Catholic, the conflict wouldn't be as bad, and it would not be as severe.
Well, that's pretty much what Tito said.
Yeah. The Catholics are a problem. The Catholic Church is a problem in these Serb-Croatian relations.
Because its center is outside of Croatia, outside of Yugoslavia. The same problem in America. It's always been the problem that the Catholics had allegiance to a foreign potentate. When Al Smith ran for president in 1928, and that was the high point of the Ku Klux Klan attacking the Catholic Church in America. And when Al Smith lost, he made the famous statement, "Tell the Pope to unpack his bags."
What?
That was a joke. Tell the Pope to unpack his bags.
Good, yeah.
It's never gone away. It's never gone away.
Yeah.
This time. So when now you have a situation where you actually have dual loyalty across the board. All of the Jews who have dual citizenship in the government. That's a classic example of dual loyalty, but nobody's talking about it anymore.
Yeah,
they only talk about it when it's Catholics.
No, I would say that the Catholics are better for America. The Catholic concept is better than let's say the Jewish concept, because if you don't like America, you don't like, let's say, this emperor, you don't like what your country is doing, and so there are basically two ways of dealing with it. The Catholic way is basically you go on the top of the hill, you construct a huge cross or a statue to Our Lady and say, "Oh God, like, civilize these people, like convert these savages." Or the other way is you have a secret club that's called Atomic Spies, and you basically are helping the competing side, the Russians, the Bolsheviks, and you're giving out atomic secrets, and you're propping them up. So it's not actually Catholic; it's more like Judaizing way of betraying your country. And this here, you honestly want to help your country.
Jonathan Pollard said that Jews have a duty to betray the countries they live in. That what you talked about, the atomic spies, that's the plot of Oppenheimer. That movie is critical of Jews. Basically, it's the Jews. You let the Jew in, he immediately wants to betray you. That's also the plot of The Brutalist. That's exactly what the architect, they portrayed by Adrian Brody, did. He comes in, the wealthy Protestant, the Presbyterian, gives him a commission, and then he immediately starts talking to his wife about how they're trying to use him and how these people are awful and so on and so forth. That's classic Jewish behavior. Classic Jewish behavior. What you said about the first alternative about the top of the hill, that is exactly what's in Cincinnati. If you go to the Immaculata Church, it's on top of a hill overlooking Cincinnati, and the statement behind the altar is in German, Heilige Maria, bete für die Bekehrung dieses Landes. Holy Mary, pray for the conversion of this country. That was the German Catholic program when they came to America.
Yeah, it's better for America than mailing, the blueprints of the atomic bomb to your opponent. You know what I mean?
The irony is, of course, that the Jews did take over America, and it converted the Americans. It converted Americans to Jews. I became a Jew. I suddenly realized this when I was a teenager. I became a Jew simply because of the influence of the media, in particular, people like Bob Dylan. And I didn't stop being a Jew until I went to Germany. And I suddenly realized I was taken out of that atmosphere. But, I mean, I've already talked about Catholic girls outside Philadelphia. When they have an abortion, they become a Jew. And they vote like Jews. And now, apparently, this is how Josh Shapiro became governor of Pennsylvania.
It's a spiritual battle. Mike? Oh.
It's engaging.
Sorry, the connection just broke for a couple of seconds.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was saying, it's a spiritual war.
Yeah, I think we have to see it that way. This is precisely the problem in Ireland right now. Do they see this as a spiritual war or as a race war? Yeah. That's precisely the problem.
The race war.
That's precisely the problem in America right now. After I tried to disentangle the Jewish question from the race question, I have all these people running off and saying it's racial. This is this guy, Converse, invited me to this conference on the Jewish problem. The people show up are white boys. One of them even gives the Hitler salute, saying, no, we're not going to get anywhere. If you have to be white in order to become an American, that's going nowhere. That's going nowhere. Well, you would think he would understand this. He's a Pashtun from Afghanistan. What's that got to do with being white? Oh, the Pashtun's white, and then his assistant finally tells me he's from the Caucasus. So I said, a real white guy, a Caucasian.
Yeah, he's from Asia. Yeah, well, there is. I mean, this white. Let's say the funniest thing is when they start talking about the European race.
Yeah, I mean, what was that?
It's ridiculous.
Where is Tom Sunich? When did Tom Sunich become white? White.
Yeah. I mean,
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is no European race. There's no European language even.
The European civilization started in the Aegean. I mean, have you ever seen a Greek? I mean, it's not really white, but okay. I mean, it is white, but so basically in Europe, the wine growers.
When did Italians become white? You ask Google. You can ask Google this question.
I don't
You know
know.
what
A
Google?
couple
You know what
decades
Google?
ago.
Do you know what Google said?
What?
Google said when the Godfather movie came out.
Oh,
That's not true. I don't think it's true. I think it was when Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin were singing in Las Vegas. That's when the Italians became white. I guarantee you, when Frank Rizzo, the mayor of Philadelphia, when he was born in 1920, Italians were not white. Now, this is this crazy idea. It makes no sense.
yeah. What you can actually do a scientific by a scientific analysis of your genetics, and you can trace your ancestors, your paternal ancestors or your maternal ancestors. So, for example, the paternal ancestors, they are like classified in the groups. So, for example, Barack Obama, Muammar Gaddafi have the same grandfather down the line, but the same grandfather is also grandfather to Adolf Hitler and Albert Einstein. So
Okay.
it's you can scientifically trace that these four people have a mutual fraternal, let's say, predecessor somewhere in Africa. So those guys black or white? I mean, is this this European DNA? It doesn't make any sense.
Why is Barack Obama black? Why is he black?
Is he?
Everyone here says he's the first black president. Why is he black?
Looks like a Greek to me. Okay, I don't know.
I'm sure the Greek. He's black because it's a social construct, because the Democratic Party wanted to have this first black president. His mother's white. He's every bit as white as he is black. Why is he black? Because it's a social construct. People get upset when I say that.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, okay, Mike. Thank you for your time.
Good.
And thank you for